Welcome my friends, Seven Gray here. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a spectacular day. This is part 2 of a series that I put together, a video about running a vehicle, a diesel vehicle, on waste vegetable oil. It's a few days later, and Guisepi has had his oil sitting out here for a couple of days, according to what I understand, to settle. I'll let him explain a little bit more about the process of preparing the oil and how to get it into his bus and all the stuff that's involved, technical stuff that I don't really understand. That's why I'm turning to the expert for this information.
So yeah, the oil's been settled for a few days. It's always nice to let it settle if you have the time and energy and space to do that, which can be difficult on the road sometimes. We're here at a place where I'm not moving too frequently, so settling isn't too big of a deal. Basically I have here, this is my old funnel system. I'm building a new funnel system, but it's essentially just a 150 micron mesh screen, nylon, to capture most of the debris that's in the vegetable oil. I also have my special little cap that I custom made out of an old vegetable oil cap and a piece of an old bottle, which essentially, one of the hardest parts of pouring vegetable oil is that it has the tendency to drip all over you. So this just ensures that the oil goes out of the jug into the funnel and away from dripping down onto your feet. In case it does drip, I always put a piece of cardboard down because I'm oftentimes in parking lots or at someone's house and I just don't want to make a mess. So this oil just looks super nice. It's super clear. There's not very much debris. It's just was changed out at good intervals. Whatever booth this came from, they're making sure that they're keeping their oil pretty clean, which is really nice. Well, part of the reason I'm making a new funnel system is because this one's really slow, because it's only 3/4 inch hose at the bottom. But when you're dumping oil and you get towards the bottom, you start to see some debris. And when you start seeing a bunch of debris, if you see any water or lots of debris, you pretty much want to stop pouring. And if there's still quite a bit left in the bottom of the jug when that happens, I'll generally consolidate all the bottoms from those several jugs into one jug and let it settle again for a few days and then pour off the top of that. So you're just constantly getting the best oil off the top, and that's kind of the trick, is to just use the best oil and settle out the rest. Starting to see some cloudiness there, so it's most of the way done. So I'll just use this. This will just become kind of the drag one, and I'll let that sit out for another few days with the bottom of all the rest of the jugs. And after every one I put in here, or if it starts getting really clogged, I just take a plastic spoon and scrape along the inside here, get all of the gunk and junk, allow all the oil to settle through, and then take a scoop of the gunk and junk. And since it's just vegetable oil and food particles, make it go in the grass. Try not to get it on your camera. So this is a capacitance humidity probe on a capacitance meter, and this was designed by a guy named Sun Wizard, who is a vegetable oil user. They stopped making the specific capacitance humidity probes that he used, so I'm using a slightly different one. But basically the idea is that humidity in air, which is what this is meant to measure, is similar to saturation of water in vegetable oil. And so you can use one of these meters to determine the water content of your vegetable oil. And ideally you want to have below maybe 60, 70, maybe 80% saturation, especially in this dry climate, in your vegetable oil when the final product that you're putting into your clean vegetable oil tank. And that's because you will get some condensation on the inside of your fuel tank, especially since if you have a heated fuel pickup or if you heat the tank. And you want that oil to saturate into the water, because if it's saturated, you want that water to saturate into the oil, because if it's saturated, it won't harm your engine. But if it's in droplet form, which is anything above 100% saturation, then you can possibly damage your engine. So we're just going to look at some of this oil and determine what our readings are. So because this one's not super precise, it's really some of my initial tests. This is at 219, which is according to my test, that's about 0% saturated, which seems a little oddly low. But as long as we're not getting up to like the 240 range, then we should be good, because right around 240 with this meter, it's 100% saturated. So we'll give a little swirl here to just get a bunch of oil on it. And sometimes you gotta give it a minute to fully get the reading. This one's sticking right around 223, so this one is, none of these have very much water in them. I'm just going down the row to determine. So part of the reason I'm doing this is because this oil is super clean and it's not very wet, then I might not centrifuge it. If oil is particularly wet and dirty, then I will centrifuge it. So send it through a centrifuge 3 to 4 passes, and it's just drawing from my dirty vegetable tank through the centrifuge and back into the other end of the dirty vegetable tank. Yeah, 224, that looks pretty good. And so this is really just a way for me to determine whether or not I need to centrifuge, because if I don't centrifuge, I just pass it through 2 filters, a 10 micron and a 2 micron, so that anything going into my clean vegetable tank is down to 2 micron. And it costs a little bit more in filters, but it's a lot less wear on the engine and the alternator and stuff than centrifuging, because I run the bus on high idle to run the centrifuge and use the alternator to power it. So this is 223. These are all really good and clean. So we're just gonna, I don't think I'm gonna centrifuge this oil. Basically it's gonna go in the dirty tank and I'll just transfer it right into the clean tank next time I drive. I'll just heat it up and transfer it. So after I'm done with pouring vegetable oil into the bus, part of my philosophy is that anything that comes into my hands, anything that I take on as ownership, I'm then responsible for. So with these jugs, because they're number 2s, I believe, number 2s, high density polyethylene, they're highly recyclable, but you're not supposed to recycle soiled things. That's part of the reason why China has stopped taking recycling from a lot of the US. So I just put some Dr. Bronner's in there, some hot water, and just clean out most of that junk. Pour it into the next one and continue on down the line. And then when you're done, just make sure to dump it on soil, plants, not just somewhere not near a waterway, somewhere where there's soil and plants though. Biodegradable soap is only biodegradable in the presence of microbes and oxygen. So if it gets in a waterway, it won't biodegrade. It's actually pretty harmful, which is why a lot of the camp suds will say not to use in or near a waterway. So when you're dumping this out, you just want to make sure, yeah, to put it on plants and soil so that it actually does biodegrade. And honestly, the desert like this is not the best place to do that because there's not as many soil microbes. So the best way I found to smash these down for recycling is you step on it, do that, and then I just put the lids on until I get to the recycling bin. And that just makes sure nothing spills out, it keeps them flat. Then when you get to the recycling bin, you can take the lids off, chuck them out, and then recycle the bottles. Oh, and then for the cardboard parts, any of the soiled parts, I cut out. Those go in the trash or they become fire starter, and the non-soiled parts go into the recycling.
It's been absolutely fascinating to learn more about wasteful vegetable oil. The reason this is so important to me, I specifically bought my step van at the advice of Guisepi with the Cummins 5.9. It's a 6B T12 valve at Giuseppe's recommendation so that I could do a veggie oil conversion myself. So thank you, Guisepi, for that. And those of you who are interested in it, that's one of the ideal engines. I imagine there's a bunch of others you can use, but that's why I wanted some education on this. Thank you again for watching. Savor the moment. See you next episode.